Hey, beautiful soul. You're listening to the Rising into Mindful Motherhood podcast, your weekly dose of fertility wisdom. I'm your host, Dr. Katie Wood. I'm a barefoot mama bear, pharmacist, and integrative fertility coach. This is your go-to podcast for all things to naturally nourish your fertility, embody womb healing, and reclaim your feminine power to accelerate your path to pregnancy. My expert guests and I will be having intentional conversations to discuss the many facets of a thriving, fertile foundation, natural wellness, and how we grow and transform as women on our journey to motherhood. So let's dive in, shall we? Hello and welcome to Rising into Mindful Motherhood. In this episode, I'll be talking with Fatima. She is a dedicated integrative health practitioner and an enthusiastic advocate for a toxic-free lifestyle with a deep understanding of the intricate connections between lifestyle, nutrition, and health. And she specializes in assisting entrepreneurs who struggle with fatigue, anxiety, and insomnia. And in this episode, we're going to be discussing minerals and the downstream connection with hormones that are responsible for our fertile health, our fertility health, such as the thyroid, adrenals, and reproductive hormones. So welcome, Fatima. I'm so excited to have you on the podcast and really to learn more about minerals. It's something that I'm not overly informed on. So I'm excited to hear your story and learn about where this passion came from for you, all about minerals.
Thank you, Katie. I'm very excited to be here. So should I just start?
Yeah. So
All right.
where did this information and drive concerning minerals, where did that come about for you?
Back in, I would say 2021, I saw a post on Facebook talking about copper and premature gray hair. I
Mm-hmm.
know it's like random, but I got really curious because I've had gray hair since I was 16. And, obviously it's just here and there. But every time I would get pregnant, I would have more come up and then it would pause when after I gave birth. So after looking deeply into it, I connected with a practitioner that posted it and I was just like, hey, I want to do a hair tissue mineral analysis and I want to find out if I am, copper toxic or whatever because of the premature gray hair. And when I was sending this test, it was so funny because I was kind of like, I came from an egotistic place because I had been living a toxic free, healthy lifestyle since 2010. So I was like, my test will come back great. And then it came back and I was kind of like shocked by my results. But I read the whole report and it literally telling me my whole life story. So that kind of got me into this. I wouldn't say it's a rabbit hole, but it made me so fascinated about the world of minerals because, like you, I also at that time I never knew how important they are for our health and our well-being and how much they affect almost everything. And well, yeah, they affect everything in our bodies. They're responsible for trillions of enzyme functions in our bodies.
Mm-hmm.
And I just didn't know that, at that time when I was cleaning up my lifestyle, I just thought, hey, I stopped using all the toxic stuff, eating clean. I didn't even really do a proper detox or anything like that, but I just felt amazing lowering my toxic load, but I never knew about how important minerals are. Like I just thought, hey, we're taking a multivitamin, eating good, we're good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's what kind of got me into it.
Wow. So did you find, were you copper toxic?
Yes. So on my hair test, it's not really like face value. So, but I was a slow oxidizer and my copper excretion was really low. But then that could mean that because my liver is very sluggish, then I'm not able to push out the toxic metals out of my system. But yeah, all my symptoms were showing that I have hidden copper toxicity. And it doesn't only mean that, like you have excess copper, but it can also be I have copper floating around in my body, but it's in a biounavailable form, or because my liver is not producing the ceruloplasmin, then it's not able to carry it to where it needs to go.
Mm. That's fascinating because my mom started getting gray hair in high school.
Uh-huh.
So her and one of my aunts, yeah, they've had completely gray hair ever since they were young. And I never even thought about minerals being a cause for that. And wow, that's really fascinating. So, okay, so you did that for yourself, and then you really just kind of dived in and educated yourself on all the minerals.
Yeah, I did. And then, so I was already a health coach, but then that kind of gave me more drive like, oh, I really want to offer this test to my clients. I was like, everybody needs to do a hair tissue mineral analysis. And so I decided to take the integrative health practitioner course because the level 2, you can offer functional lab tests. But right now, I'm really focused on the HTMA. But before I did the IHP course, I took a course by Rick Fisher, who's, I don't know if you know him, like he's big on the copper toxicity world because
Mhm.
that's how he was able to help his wife. His wife got really like sick and tired and no one could figure it out. And then he finally like found the connection with copper toxicity. And then Dr. Rick Malter's course also, he wrote Strands of Health,
Mhm.
and he's also one big proponent for HTMAs as a screening tool, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just like put it all together. And yeah, when I get passionate about one thing, something, I always do a deep dive, and just learn all about it and just keep learning.
Me too. Amazing. I love that. So let's get into the nitty-gritty. So what does this have to do with fertility, right? If you have a mineral imbalance, or maybe you have too much of a mineral or you have too little of a mineral, because I know, and you'd be able to speak to this better than me, but there's like a dance with
Yeah.
certain minerals. Like I think iron and copper kind of work
Yeah, yeah. A
together.
lot a lot of the minerals. I love that you said that because that's what I always describe to people that I may meet. I'm like, minerals have a delicate dance together
Mhm.
because we have a very delicate mineral balancing system and it could easily get imbalanced, from junk food and heavy metals and other toxins, even stress, right? And so the main things really that we want to look at is zinc and copper. So, because copper is related to estrogen and zinc is related to progesterone. And on the male part, you know how when we talk about fertility, sometimes we usually always focus on the women. Well, not functional, but most Western doctors will always focus on the women, but we have to remember that the male is part of the equation and zinc is very important for sperm health.
Mhm.
And usually, thyroid health is, the thyroid gets imbalanced when there's low selenium, iodine, and manganese. Yeah. So there's really just like this whole amazing dance because minerals have specific relationships with each other. They can help drive up, let's say, like calcium and magnesium. They're usually paired together, but and then they can go up and down together. There's um, it's like a synergistic and antagonistic relationship
Mhm.
each other. And when we talk about the thyroid health, calcium and potassium is basically the ratio they use to know cellular permeability to the thyroid hormones and other hormones. So, um, no matter how much, how sometimes we're like, oh, we're going to take, a lot of times we're so focused on balancing the hormones,
Mhm.
but we're not like focusing first, like what's really causing, the hormone imbalance and like all these things.
Mhm.
So, minerals is one of them that could affect not necessarily like the balance or the imbalance of the hormones, but it's more the permeability of the cells. So if they can't communicate within the cells, then, that's when you're feeling off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I know that iodine and selenium are so important for the thyroid. So if those are off, then the thyroid may not be able to signal to other functions of the body that are important for fertility.
Yeah. Yes, that's 100% true.
Yeah. So typically when you work with clients, you will run the HTMA test.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And then, so they just basically need to send in about an inch of new hair growth, and an inch kind of shows us like about 3 months of what's going on within the cells
Mm-hmm.
metabolically. So when the cells are, doing all these functions, it will excrete, minerals and even toxic metals and whatnot. And then we can see that in the hair. It's kind
Mm-hmm.
of like a snapshot of a longer period compared to just like a specific time, like, when you do blood tests and urine tests.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's really fascinating. That's, it's like a 40,000-foot view of our health. And, this, we're not using it to diagnose anything. It's really a screening tool. And it kind of shows us trends. Like,
Mm-hmm.
let's say, depending on the calcium magnesium balance, we can tell if someone is, having a hard time regulating their blood sugar
Mm-hmm.
and stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
really. Yeah.
Very, very cool. So, what are some ways that, and obviously this would be patient specific, but what are some ways that you help your clients that present with imbalances?
Yeah. So we have specific, targeted supplements depending on their results. But we always recommend, so this is going to be like pretty much kind of general for everyone, is a digestive enzyme that has bile, ox bile, and pancreatic enzymes.
Mm-hmm.
Because we know in this fast paced modern life, everyone is so busy and stressed out that most of us, if not all, have low stomach acid.
Mm-hmm.
And so, that's one factor when you're eating healthy, but then you have low stomach acid, then you're not digesting the foods, and then you're not absorbing, the minerals and other nutrients that your body needs.
Yeah.
And then we usually always recommend kelp for the iodine,
Mm.
because we all know that almost everyone is deficient in iodine. And the reason why we recommend kelp is, even though it can, how they say, oh, it's still from the water, it might be contaminated with heavy metals, but it has a certain compound or enzyme that actually helps detox heavy metals. So it's kind of like, it's useful because it won't add to your toxic load
Mm-hmm.
while adding the essential mineral that our body needs, especially our thyroid. And then, this is just not about supplements either. So we always recommend specific lifestyle changes, right? Like manage the stress, figure out where that stress is coming from, getting to bed by 9 in the evening or even by 8:30, and trying to go for 8 to 9 hours of sleep, because everyone, that's why I don't like to say anymore, like, oh, you need to get 8 to 9 hours of sleep. But then if you don't say a specific time, people are like, I am getting 8 hours of sleep, but they don't go to bed until midnight. So your body is not able to heal when you're not getting to bed, when you're getting to bed that late, it's not going to be able to heal. And, we always encourage either, chiropractic work so that you can move out stuck emotions. So
Mm.
it's really kind of like a deep healing modality. it's not a quick fix. It's not a quick solution. But if you're, wanting to optimize your health and really heal and, heal deeply and not keep going back to, let's say, hey, I was able to balance my hormones doing something, but it's just like that thing. And so eventually you're still gonna, end up with imbalanced hormones if you're still doing, let's say, the same lifestyle that got you to your imbalanced hormones, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what another fascinating thing about mineral balancing is how it helps you, like I mentioned, process like past stuck emotions, past conflicts, or traumas. It's really kind of like an unwinding of, your life, because we don't know, when, that we don't know all our mineral imbalances going up to here to the present, right? And so it kind of like unwinds it, and then you get to like the past, um let's say past ratios or past balances of your minerals. And then if there was a certain stuck trauma or conflict on that specific time, and then you're there, your body has enough energy to process it, and it actually helps release it. So there's like, how they have these like healing reactions, which happens, right? And so there's been case studies where these patients, they're like, all of a sudden they'll just start feeling angry, out of nowhere, and then it will go away. But it's just really that stuck anger that was able to be processed and released.
Mm.
So it's really fascinating. But I know we were talking about fertility, so so I'm gonna go back there real quick, right? Fertility. We know that a lot of people nowadays are, having a hard time getting pregnant. I've had, I have friends, and we see a lot of stories. And to me, it's really just our bodies are undernourished, and we have a heavy toxic load
Mm-hmm.
from, we get bombarded with toxins every single day, and it's hard to avoid them completely. And we just have to lower our volumes of right? So, but when our minerals are balanced, there will be no space for the heavy toxic heavy metals in our body, right? Because it will push them out. It's so basically you're also doing a gentle heavy metal detox, but it's not done forcefully. So heavy metals will replace the essential minerals in the specific enzyme function. So whatever looks similar to them, and if the essential mineral is not there, they'll grab onto the heavy metal to replace it. So when we're doing a heavy metal detox forcefully, we're kind of screwing ourselves, in some way, because we're taking away the part that's needed for the function, even though it's not the essential element needed, right? But for now, it's actually useful for, a specific function.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, a lot of times a lot of us are, like I mentioned, copper toxic, especially if we used birth control or if we'd had copper IUDs
Mm-hmm.
prior to, when we didn't want to have babies yet, right? And I know there's practitioners now that help women specifically to detox from, from if you use birth control or from the copper, to prepare them for pregnancy. Because it really, it kind of if if you have an excess copper, then you're estrogen dominant, and your progesterone will also usually be low, because when your copper levels are high, then your zinc is low.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's really like a
So
delicate dance.
yeah, there's so many pieces to the puzzle, and I'm trying to think of the saying. Oh gosh, I can't think of it. It's called like test, don't guess.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
exactly.
I would love to do, I've never done an HTMA myself, but I would be really interested in just seeing what it would even look like. Because I'm sure
Yeah.
similar to you, like, oh, I live a healthy lifestyle, but then the results would come back and I would probably be blown away at what it looks like.
I would be honored to do one for you. But yeah, it was really, and also usually, like depending on your oxidation rate, your self-awareness is kind of like muted. And that's what happened to me. I thought that I had all this energy because I'm taking care of 4 kids. We homeschool. I
Mhm.
take care of a little farm, and then my husband would always joke with me. He's like, "You're like an old lady because you go to bed at 8:30 and then you don't get out of bed until 8:30 the next day." And I'm like, "Well, I'm awake. I just like to lay down in bed and just like, hang out with a baby." I'm like, I'm not tired. And then I sat down, and just like, okay, let me take an inventory of how I really feel. Right. And then I realized, I'm like, yeah, you know what? Maybe I am like lower on energy than I care to admit. Right. And, um, but yeah, ever since I started on my own balancing program, I've noticed that I feel more alive inside. And I thought that I was very loving towards my kids, but I guess I wasn't. I was like apathetic. And now I'm like, connecting with them better and laughing, doing belly laughs with them and just really like feeling alive. Like,
Mhm.
not like, oh, I'm not going to interact with you because I have no energy to like extend my bedtime or something like that.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think one point I'd love to make is why I would say this work is most important in that preconception phase because when you get pregnant and you give birth, you are like in totally mineral and vitamin depleted, right?
Depleted. Yeah. 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 Now I don't want to dismiss, how a lot of women they like experience postpartum depression and anxiety, but now learning more about minerals, I kind of say, are you sure you're not you're just postpartum depletion is what I
Yeah.
call it.
Mm-hmm.
Because we give 3 to 5 pounds of minerals while we're pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
And we also share our toxicities with our children, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
That's why a lot of kids are copper toxic. If you have excess copper, kids are born copper toxic these days. And that's also kind of one, to me, like one piece of the puzzle for behavioral disorders like ADHD and ADD, because copper is really an excitotoxin. And it really just like, because you know how they say it's very conductive. So it just really makes our brain kind of like super active. And that's why a lot of people too are like, oh, I'm so tired, but I can't go to sleep because my mind's going a million miles per hour,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's like one sign of copper toxicity. But yeah, it's like, the best time to do, to figure out where you are with your mineral stores and your heavy metals and do a balancing program before you get pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
And we would also recommend it for the partner, of course, because, sperm health is also important.
Mm-hmm.
But then if you already are pregnant, you can still do the program because it's really, how a lot of sick people say, oh, you shouldn't do a detox while you're pregnant because you're passing on the toxins through the placenta. But you're still, to me, like when you're releasing the toxins in a gentle way and you're supporting your liver at the same time and the other detox pathways, I feel like it's better and your child will have a better um, outcome. They will probably have lesser toxins and they're going to have better mineral balance, coming from a parent that is not minerally depleted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the preconception phase I think doesn't get as much like spotlight as it should. I think
Yeah.
a lot of times what can happen is it's like, oh, okay, we want to have a baby. Let's go do it. And that's exactly what happened to us. I was on birth control for 13 consecutive years. And I had asked, my just whoever's listening to this podcast has probably heard my story 1,000 times, but I had asked my OB, like, when should I stop my birth control before we start trying? And she's like, oh, you can stop it and start trying in the same month. And that's exactly what we did. And it took us a while to get pregnant. And I can only imagine that, the nutrient deficiencies played a significant role. And I would be curious
Yeah.
about if I did, I didn't have the Mirena, I was on the pill, but um if there is any copper toxicity, because I have been shown to be a little bit more estrogen dominant.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
cycle came back postpartum. So yeah, that would be, I'm always like, let me test this out before I have my clients do this work. Like, let me kind of look at my results and my cycle and things like that is almost like a case study. So this is just really
Right.
fascinating. I do have a question for you. Like what are your thoughts on, and I'm probably going to say it wrong, that Shiljat
Oh yeah.
fulvic
Is that how
acid?
you say it? I always say she
I
legit.
I don't know how to say
And
it.
then I always sing she legit to quit. But yeah, okay. So there's, two camps to this. And, you know, a lot of people were mad at me when I made a post about Shilajit and saying that it has a high chance of being contaminated with heavy metals, because
Mhm.
obviously anything from the earth can be contaminated. And, a lot of moms use it and they're like, I feel a lot of energy and all these things. And I'm like, yeah, but you also don't really know what if that energy that you're getting is actually maybe the heavy metals that are like stimulating your adrenals, making you feel like you have energy. But I'm not saying that all of the companies are selling toxic products, because there's companies that do third party testing, right?
Mhm.
But I would be curious to know if they're doing a test for every batch, right?
Mhm.
Like there would be a difference, and it would depend on the source. And yeah, the fulvic and humic acid. I was just talking to my friend about this because I was like it sounds really amazing, but then I found out how it was made. We were laughing because I was like, I literally just imagined that we're drinking or taking in bug microorganism poop. She's like, oh, it's like compost. But oh, there's my son. But yeah, to I really want to find out though. I want to test somebody who's taking it regularly and then they're also using zeolite as their um detox agent, because a lot of people also are right like zeolite helps us detox, but to me I'm like that will help probably detox whatever is currently floating in our bodies, but I don't think it's strong enough to actually go deep to our old toxins that have been stuck in our organs, tissues, and our bones.
Mhm.
Right, they have this affinity because they're replacing the enzyme functions like I mentioned. So I want to test somebody who, uses both products and just see what their hair analysis looks like. Because I'm curious myself, because I've tried those products and I just didn't have like, I don't know, I just didn't feel good about using them every single day.
Mhm.
And so I haven't been using them. But yeah, that's my thoughts on it. There's a big chance that they're heavily contaminated. And I believe someone, but maybe he only sent a certain sample, sent it into a lab, and the level of the trace elements were really low, like to even make a significance of like helping someone rebalance or
Yeah.
get out of the depletion state.
Mhm.
And also, it depends, right? Everybody's different. So there's people who might not be as loaded with heavy metals, so they might do fine on it initially, right? and then after a while they might not. So I really can't say.
Yeah, no, I think it's always good to question things, especially when, they're like new fads that are coming up,
Yeah.
like this is the new best thing that's going to change your life. But I do think it's good to question, well, okay, is this really as amazing as I say it
Yeah.
is? And then, do your due diligence and research and in
Right. Because
there.
they actually banned I believe Shilajit in Canada.
Oh, wow.
And then some people who are so into it, they're like, well, you don't, maybe they're just banning it because it's good for you. Hello, I'm like the biggest conspiracy theorist in this, like, that I know. Like, sometimes there's reasons, like, like, do you think like they're going to ban everything that we say is bad for us and then, but it's good for you? Like, that's not like a, you know, how do you say that? I can't think of the term. Like, just have, um, I can't think of the term. But yeah, we just need, like you said, we just need to do our due diligence and research for ourselves and see if it's you feel like it's right for you or not just following trends. Because there was also one company before that actually got shut down because they tested a lot very high for heavy metals and a lot of people got sick from it.
Oh, wow.
Initially they felt better, like yeah, they were pushing out parasites and all these things, but eventually they got really sick,
Hmm.
like a quite kind of like a heavy metal poisoning.
Wow. Yeah. So definitely take this as a note to do research before you start something. Because I've had them
Yeah,
ask me about that supplement, and it's like I'm not really
yeah,
sure. And you look at the websites, and of course they market it as this amazing thing. But yeah, looking for places that have a third party testing, but then also, like you mentioned, how frequently are they doing it
they testing, yeah.
like that? But
Yeah, and I forgot I wanted to talk about, this is controversial, but liver. Because this is, how it's kind of connected to pregnancy and all these things, right? Uh, there are a lot of people that recommend liver. I am not saying liver is bad, right? But if you're already copper toxic and you're taking liver as as a supplement, like taking it every single day, that could possibly add to your to the load of copper to our bodies.
mm-hmm.
So definitely, test, don't guess.
Yeah,
Because if you think about it, back in the day when they slaughtered, let's say, a cow or a deer, there's only one liver and they don't eat it every single day, right?
true.
Having the supplements is just different. We're all we take it every single day thinking it's so good for us. And
Hmm.
it's not only the copper, it's also like really high in vitamin A. And there's, like someone said, there's times when we can be, nutrient overloaded, right? Copper excess, because copper is essential, but then only to a certain level. We definitely don't want too much of it, right? It's always about the balance.
Hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah, I'm personally a fan of alternating supplements and kind of, a few days a week and not
Yeah, like taking a
necessarily,
break.
yeah, not necessarily every single day. But no, I think that's a good point to bring up because that is another fad and I do like liver supplements, but I agree with you, not necessarily something to be taken every day and
Yeah.
really testing to see where you're at because you don't want to
Right.
add to a potential toxic load that you're already dealing with. So these are all
Exactly.
great like thinking points for people to just kind of consider before they make a decision to do certain things. So
Yeah.
thank you for the controversial opinions. Those are always fun to talk about. And I'm just
You're
one that like
welcome.
I'm just so open always to just hear like the different sides because I think it's important to be open to that. But
Yeah, for sure.
you have a freebie or possibly more for the audience. I don't know. You named off a few. Is there a particular one that's
Yes.
speaking to you that you want to share?
Yeah, I made an ultimate energy checklist, 10 ways, or I didn't say 10 ways. Yeah, the ultimate energy checklist so that you can gain back your energy without drinking 10 cups of coffee. Yeah, I can't memorize the link to get it, but I'll share it with you.
Yes.
Maybe you can put it on the show notes. But yeah, um, a lot of people are so tired nowadays that I feel like it's um very needed.
Hmm.
And it's not just a checklist. I kind of made it into a way where it's like habit stacking so that you build up it and then actually create the habits to get your energy back.
Nice. I like that. Yeah. I think making small, sustainable changes, and then if you can stack them, that's a bonus too. So very cool. Thank you. I will definitely put that in the show notes and just share with the audience, where they could learn more and connect with you.
Yeah, I love Instagram. It's at Fatima Pagtakhan. I know that's going to be impossible to spell, but we're going to put it in the show notes.
Yes, we will.
And my website's kindheartlifestyle.com. You can, see, read about my story and a bunch of articles about mineral balancing and how we can work together. And you can always send me an email, kindheartlifestyle@gmail.com, if you want to start a conversation and or say hi. But yeah, I'm very friendly.
Awesome. Yeah, and I personally love your reels. I think that they're great. They always make me
Thank you.
smile when they come across my feed. So definitely go follow her. It'll be in the show notes. But yeah, do you have any final words or anything else you want to share?
No, I think that we covered pretty good. Just, I guess, just always remember you're a unique individual and there's no one size fits all solution. So definitely test, don't guess. And I know everyone's trying to look for answers for their health struggles. And then when they see someone share what worked for them, and then a lot of people will go, quickly jump into like, oh, what worked for you? I'm going to try it on myself.
Mhm.
But just remember, you're very different. We all have different imbalances, different toxicities, and different chemical makeup. So always remember that.
Yes, I thank you for ending on that note because I see that a lot in the fertility world. People will post, what was the thing you did that got you pregnant? Like whether it's a supplement or whatever. And truly, we don't necessarily know if it was that one thing or something else. And we are all unique bio individuals, and it might not be the best thing. So I think that's where, working with someone, a coach like you or me, can really help create that tailored, individualized plan for someone. So thanks so
Yeah.
much for being on here and just sharing your passion and your expertise. And yeah, thanks for listening, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the Rising into Mindful Motherhood podcast. If this episode resonated with you or gave you an aha moment, stop what you're doing right now and write a review. This simple act of kindness helps me get this podcast out to connect with as many women as I possibly can. I also have a special offer. If you send me a screenshot of your review, I will take $250 off one of my premium coaching containers. Let me know what resonated with you the most and why. So connect with me in my free Facebook community or tag me on Instagram. You'll find both listed below. Thanks again from the bottom of my heart for tuning in to this episode, and I'll see you next time.